All right, looking like we're live. It's pretty cool. Now, what's up, guys? I'm Brad with Despite Fitness. I know that I said I was going to try to do a little bit more advertisement for when I'd go live next. Just never got around to it. So we're just going to go live and see whoever jumps in, and people can kind of check this out as they go. But I wanted to make another edition of my I Disagree series, which is really so far just kind of a two-part. But I disagreed previously with Brandon Campbell Diamond about, all plates matter and kind of debating the value of 35s. So today I want to go ahead and do the next installment of I Disagree. And what's going on, Arno? Good to see you, man. Want to go ahead and do another series of I Disagree. And this time I'm disagreeing with my friend, Brian Alsruhe. And so not long ago, Brian did a video with he, Billy, Nick, Olu, his wife, Joe Satsmary, and I think that might be it. But did a kind of a round robin table discussion about recovery stuff. And so all of them were talking about the different recovery modalities. What's up, XW? What's going on, man? Good to have you here. Thanks for catching up. Talked about all these recovery modalities and saying, they did this round robin discussion. They talked about the different modalities, and then had this block of discussion about how important each one of those modalities was to each individual. So some people really liked ice. What's up, Randy? Some people really liked ice. Some people really liked foam rolling. Some people really, et cetera, right? So they went in and talked about all these different recovery options. And so I wanted to do a video because I watched the video and didn't necessarily agree with it. And so I felt like if anyone's out there, and whether they're a new lifter being like young and just kind of getting into things, or, a new lifter and a little bit older and trying to understand, what's out there, what kind of options are available and the types of things that they maybe should or shouldn't do. That if they watch that video, they might get the idea that you need to do these things. And I wholeheartedly disagree. And so here's my point, and I'm just going to go bottom line up front, and then I'll talk about it as we go. And if anyone that's here wants to jump in and ask questions and comment and whatever on, feel free to jump in. I'm going to respond to you as you get in. But the idea that you need to do these things, I think, is false. So I have been powerlifting, competitive powerlifting, since I was about 17, and I'm 37 now. And I only very rarely ever do any of these things. And I have been able to achieve quite a lot in powerlifting. I've been fairly successful. By open powerlifting in 2017 for 308 men's raw, I'm ranked in the top 5 in the country for powerlifting. Made it in the top 10. So, at 2017, walking around, there was only a couple of people in the country that had a chance of beating me at a meet. That's a pretty cool thing to say. Now, that doesn't mean a whole hell of a lot, right? Powerlifting is just kind of a labor of love and, whatever else. But the reason why I talk about my ascension into, the powerlifting ranks is just to say that you can achieve a lot and never have to fuck with any of that shit. I never did cryotherapy. I don't do any foam rolling. I don't do ice baths. I don't do contrast showers. I don't do any of that shit. I only do those things when I have a need. If there is a specific injury that I'm working on, I will use some of those things. So I have used some cryotherapy when I was recovering from my umbilical hernia surgery. My friend had it available, and I utilized it because it was available. I don't do any foam rolling. I've never done any foam rolling. I refuse to do foam rolling. And I say these things because I want viewers, I want people out in the world to understand that, like, doing these things or not doing these things does not necessarily make or break your career or your ability to perform very, very well. You can perform top tier, among, the national standings, and never do any of these things other than maybe for some kind of a pinpoint or specific injury. Certainly when I tore this bicep, you can see the scar here. I tore this bicep. I did some recovery techniques and methodologies. Same thing when I tore this bicep. You can see that the kind of in the scar there. I did some specific recovery and recovery methodologies, but it was pinpoint. It was specific. It was tied to a certain event. It was tied to a certain necessity. So when I go to the gym and I see people, they get out and they foam roll, and they're foam rolling for 45 minutes. And that's a lot of time. I don't know about the rest of you, if you have just 45 minutes laying about that you can dedicate to nothing other than foam rolling. But I'm a soldier. I'm a husband. I'm a father. I've got responsibilities. I don't have a lot of time or energy to pour into just rolling on a foam roller, except for if there is a specific issue. So there have been times where I have, I've had kind of a pinch or something's going on, and I use a lacrosse ball. So I have the Rogue, the Rogue lacrosse ball, or I don't even know what they call it, but this is the one from Rogue. And then I have the Rogue Voodoo Floss, and I have used these items, for recovery, but specifically for an issue when I'm feeling something very pointed, very specific. I want to be kind of a voice of reason for people to kind of dissuade you from feeling like you need to do these things in order to have any measure of success in what your personal endeavors are. What I would tell you is that utilizing some of these modalities or not utilizing these modalities might only matter and like make a difference for the top 1% of the population of people who are, performing in certain sports. If you are the best of the best, then it's going to be the very finest and the very smallest of measures that separate you from your competitors, because they too are the best of the best. And so any small measure of, leg up is going to make a big difference or could make the difference. But for the average user, for the average lifter, for the average power lifter, for, the average gym goer, you do not need to spend how much time and money and energy it takes to kind of go through these recovery modalities. Now, having said all that, I'm sorry, BJ, foam rolling. Thanks, man. I appreciate you, BJ. So I want to say that recovery is a big thing, right? And I think recovery is just kind of a blanket term. But in my mind, recovery means blood flow, right? So if you go and you have a hard gym session and we're talking about recovery, what we're really discussing is increasing blood flow to that particular area to facilitate healing and recovery so that you're able to do what you need to do again. Or you have a specific issue, a specific injury, right? And we are trying to increase blood flow into that injury area to be able to facilitate recovery. That's, in my mind, when I think recovery, that's what I think. And by and large, when we're talking recovery for the average user, blood flow. Okay, well, how do we get blood flow? Movement. So the 10-minute walks that people talk about, or just going out and taking your dog for a stroll, like that's really most of the recovery that any of us would ever need. All of this wazoo stuff, going and getting these special, the cups that you saw, the swimmer, what's his name? Phillips. Can't remember his name. The famous swimmer that had all the suction cups on his back. That's a recovery modality, specifically and for a pinpoint issue that might be a viable course of action. But for the average user, for the average person, any given day, any given week, completely unnecessary. 45 minutes foam rolling. For most people, not important. maybe a few minutes just to maybe feel like you're loosening up. Sure. I want to caveat all this by saying if you perform some of these modalities and you believe that they are working for you, then that's really all that matters. If you believe it's working for you, then it's working, because the mind has a really powerful effect on the body, and ultimately, if you feel like it's working, then that's the only thing that really matters. So I'm not trying to necessarily persuade or dissuade anyone from doing anything. I just wanted to be a counterpoint to say that even if you have aspirations of being very successful in your trajectory, whether that's powerlifting or whatever else, you do not necessarily need to subscribe to all the different modalities that people talk about. Oh, well, you got to do cryotherapy, and oh, well, you got to do blood flow restriction, and you got to do Graston, and you got to do blah 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 blah. Right? Like, you don't got to do shit. You can be really successful and never fuck with any of that. And like, I genuinely believe that I am a testament to that. Now, within that, you could make the quick argument about genetics. Oh, well, so-and-so has genetics that I don't have. We are 99.9% the same. So unless you have some severe physically debilitating condition, you round it down to zero and account for nothing, right? Like, it doesn't fucking matter. So genetics, in my mind, are not a thing. It's just a fucking scapegoat. I think that if anyone has the focus and attention to pursue something with laser-like attention, they're going to be capable of being one of the best, irrespective of their genetics. Randy, in general, the recovery stuff I do throughout the day, like grease the groove method, real quick bouts done. Yeah. Randy, that's kind of what I'm saying, man. Like, my whole point is I don't think that anyone really needs to spend a lot of time, attention, or money on any of these things. If it's something like a real quick, 5-minute routine, it's part of your flow, right? Like, hey, I'm going to get in, I'm going to do, I don't know what grease the groove method is, but like, hey, I'm going to do this thing. And by performing this thing, it is also a trigger that helps you get ready to do what you came there to do. Then that in and of itself is worth it, right? Like, it's doing something for you. It's getting you in the mood, in the groove. Smelling salts for me, right? Do smelling salts really do anything? Maybe, maybe not. Some people talk about it being an adrenal stimulant, but for me, it's a trigger. I don't smell smelling salts unless I'm ready to fucking kill something. And when I smell smelling salts, I'm ready to fucking kill something. So whether or not physiologically it's actually doing something for me or not is immaterial. I believe it's doing something for me. It's a trigger for me. It gets me ready to go. So in instances like what you're referring to, then by all means, if that's part of your methodology, then keep it. I'm not trying to dissuade anyone from breaking away from whatever it is that they do. If you feel like it helps, then it's absolutely helping. All I want to do is be a voice of reason for anyone that's on the outskirts that hasn't done these things and has listened to some of these talks, seen the video by Brian Alsruhe and his guys. And after the fact, I'll go through in the comments section and I'll link in Brian's video below. So anyone that sees this after the fact will kind of know what I'm talking about. What I don't want people to feel, that 12-year-old who's getting ready to go to the gym for the first time, or, has that weights class in gym and is just, or in school, and is just getting ready to kind of get into the gym and beginning to understand what it is to weight train. I don't want any of those people to feel like they have to do these things. So then you get these 12, 13-year-olds or people that are new to the sport, irrespective of age, and they hear some of the voices on the internet, some of the top athletes, very respectable people, and my hat's off to Brian Alsruhe and his crew and everything that they do. But I don't want people to feel like they watch that episode and they think, well shit, I got to do Graston. If I'm going to be a good powerlifter, I have to get Graston, right? And so now they're trying to find where they can get Graston in their hometown. They're spending $45 a session to get Graston. You know what I mean? Like, I want to dissuade people from believing that they need to do these things, because they don't. Like I said, I was able to achieve a very high level of success in powerlifting And I've never fucked with any of that shit. All of the common knowledge that people tell you, like, oh, don't do this. I slept like crap. I had a full job. I drank, frequently, sometimes even while working out, and always while competing. In all my last competitions, I had a bottle of whiskey on the sideline, ready to rock, and I was drinking whiskey while I competed. And people would tell you, well, you probably shouldn't drink while you lift weights. Fuck that. I did it very successfully. And so, not that everyone's going to do what I do, not that everyone's going to follow what I say. All I'm trying to do is, again, just be a voice of reason for anyone that sees these things and feel like, well, I got to do it too. No, the fuck you don't. You can do pretty much whatever you want. And unless you're like the top 1% of whatever your field is, probably not going to make that big of a difference for you. Arno, only do foam rolling for 2 minutes. Again, for all of you that do the foam rolling, I'm not blasting foam rolling specifically, although I'm generally not a fan of it. But by and large, if you feel like it works, then it works. All I'm saying is you don't need to kill 45 minutes foam rolling to get ready for your workout. That's all I'm saying. So if it's a 2 minute ready to rock and get going, hey man, by all means, keep it in the kit bag. Grease the groove, drop and do 25 push-ups randomly. Pull the bar in half hallway. Do a set every time you walk past it. Okay, so it's kind of like all day, just like doing shit. Cool. Cold showers. Yeah, I mean, so again, kind of going back to the different methodologies. There may be a number of things that anyone that sees this, they're like, well, I do this, I do this, I do this. And at the end of the day, text message. At the end of the day, if you feel like it works for you, then it works. And by all means, keep it in. All I'm trying to do is just, like I said, be that voice of reason for anyone who's just getting into sport, whatever sport. It doesn't even matter what sport. Getting into sport, and they're seeing people talk about these different methodologies, because they also, in Brian's video, they did this ranking of like, how much do you love it, or how important is it to you? 10 being the most important and 1 being the least important. And there were some modalities that they were ranking at 10. And again, that may work for Billy, that may work for Olu, that may work for, those Nick, those guys. They may really enjoy those things. But like I said, I just wanted to say to kind of whatever audience that I can reach out to say, whether you do or you don't is not necessarily going to make a huge impact on your trajectory in azimuth as a athlete, unless you are the best of the best of the best. And then by all means, every fraction matters at that point, right? If you're competing to be the CrossFit Games champion, then certainly you're probably going to be doing some things that other people aren't doing. But you're also subjecting yourself to a lot of things that most people aren't subjecting themselves to. The average gym goer, the average power lifter, probably never needs to worry about any of that shit. But again, at the end of the day, if you feel like it helps, that's really all that matters. Or even if you enjoy it, even if you don't feel like it helps, if you just like a cold shower, knock yourself out. I just don't want to feel like, I don't want people feeling like they need to do it. That to me is just insanity. XW, I just get moving and feel better. I haven't foam rolled in a while. I feel better than before. Yeah, thanks, man. I created the Super Mario Brother ringtone because I'm an 80s kid and I like NES. So yeah, so for me, in terms of like, so if anyone's wondering like, okay, well, what did you do? In terms of, getting ready to prepare for my next training session, all I've ever really done is I get in and I start doing the movements. So a lot of people have like this very like, this very ornate kind of like warm up. Well, I do this and then I do this and it's like this like step program. I've never gotten into that. So in terms of like how I prepare to do my lifts, I just go do the movement. So for bench, I start benching. For squat, I start squatting. The only thing that I've done recently that's different with squat that I actually rather enjoy is something that I saw off of Squat University. And I won't be able to do it very well here because you guys won't be able to see me. but by holding a plate out in front of me and squatting and like kind of leaning on my legs, it helps kind of stretch my calves out, and I feel loosens up my calves because calf tightness is a problem that I have with squatting. So I'll do that real quickly, but even that is like a 5-minute thing at best, and then I'm into the squat, performing, with a bar, and then ascending the weight from there to get into what I'm doing. I feel like performing the movement is one of the best things that you can do to get ready to do the movement. In the wake of training, I just feel like moving is the best, right? So like going for a walk is just a really good way, a nice brisk walk where you got your arms moving a little bit. I'm not talking like, 80s style going through the mall, like power walk. I'm just talking to just get moving, like just generate some movement, create some body heat, maybe work up a little bit of a sweat. Like that's a really great way to recover from a training session. And I think too many people try to put way too much thought into, well, how do I recover properly from the squat? How do I recover properly from the bench? You move your body and you create blood flow, and blood is what heals. Avascular tissue heals way slower than vascular tissue. Think about the last time you ate a scalding hot ass pizza and you burned the roof of your mouth, right? Your mouth heals in like a day or two. All that burn is gone within like a day or two. Where if you throw your hand on a hot ass iron, you burn the hell out of your hand's burnt for weeks, right? Week, 2 weeks before that thing heals, right? The difference in vascularity of those tissues is huge. Your mouth is way more vascular, way more blood flow. So it heals fast. Tendons, ligaments, they're not as vascular, so they take a long time to heal. So doing what you can to increase blood flow helps healing with all things. Let me see here. Arno says, you don't need it, you can do without it. Yeah, I think being to the point is very important, especially as you get older. If you're a younger person, you're in high school and you can come home from school and you have hours and hours and hours that you could just go down to the gym and just slay. Well, then, kudos, right? But as you get older, you get more responsibilities and more things are coming up, and you don't have the time, attention, or energy to be able to devote to the gym the way that maybe you could when you were in high school. It's kind of a natural progression of things. So I think that being very specific and having forethought in how you spend your time is very, very important. And it can make or break your level of success. And so, me being as successful as I was fortunate enough to become with powerlifting was a direct result of me being laser-like focused on what my goals were and attacking them and being very specific. In fact, I lost training partners because I wasn't willing to sit around and chat. I was way more focused on lifting and getting after it instead of, goofing around and playing grab ass. So it's all where your focus is. I think the average lifter, or even the above average lifter, can be tremendously successful and really never mess with a lot of the recovery modalities that were talked about in Brian's video. Never really get into those things unless, like I said, it's a specific issue. And if you have a specific issue or a specific injury, then by all means, do what you can to address that issue and use some of these modalities because they may make a difference in that recovery. Red Death, hey man, what's going on, bud? Hey, you know what? I'm never upset with people who are quiet. I'm just always appreciative that you guys are around. The fact that the channel's got so much support and you guys are willing to kind of tune in and check out what I've got going on, and drop it in the comments even just here and there. It means the world to me, so I'm super grateful, man. No worries. So that's really the gist of the video that I wanted to get into. I don't know for you, for those of you that are here, if you guys have any specific questions or any other topics or things that you want to throw at me and we kind of talk about for a few minutes before I wrap it down. But I don't want to make this a super crazy long video. I feel like I kind of want to be very pointed and kind of bottom line up front. and talk about what I wanted to talk about without being too long-winded, right? So Randy says, that's why I do it all day, randomly time, something to do in a waiting line board. Still get it done and done good in the way of training. Yeah, I think it's good. I think that doing little things throughout the day, can matter. Even just little things. Case in point, one thing that I've kind of wanted to do a little bit better job of in my own training is kind of focusing on my back, doing a little bit more of rows and things like that. And so, my training is always very, very specific, and is always dominated by the main movement. Because I believe the biggest bang for my buck, my time, my energy, is going to be performing that main movement. And again, being focused on powerlifting, I'm not necessarily concerned with other things. I'm concerned with the main three. So the main three are the biggest priorities in everything that I do. When I train, I tend to eat up a lot of time. So by the time I get around to start doing accessory work, I need to be fairly specific with what I'm doing, because I'm running out of time, I'm running out of energy, and I start to lose my patience. I want to get out of the gym. So what I've started to do is, at the end of my workouts, I just kind of randomly, even not on back day, I'll throw in a back exercise. But if I'm doing that, 5 days a week, if I'm just kind of quick throwing in just one set of back exercise, by the end of the week, I've performed 5 additional sets that previously I was never doing. And I think that our bodies can recover and respond to quite a lot. So you have the bandwidth to throw in a lot of stuff and still be able to do quite well. Recently, I've been doing more running because I have to for the Army. I'm getting ready to go to a school for the Army that's a very big school, and me making my next promotion is reliant on me performing well at the school. Part of me going to the school is performing an APFT, so the Army physical fitness test, and performing the run. So I've been running more just to ensure that I don't have any issues when it comes time for me to go to the school. So today, case in point, I went and I ran 1 mile just as a training aid. Ran 1 mile in 8 minutes, and right now I'm 6'2", I'm 300 pounds, but I ran an 8-minute mile and it felt great. And then after I ran my 8-minute mile, I went and squatted, and I was able to build up to a 545 triple, which is the heaviest I've squatted in a while, because I've had no reason to really push myself to go too heavy. But I only say that as an example of, you can do quite a lot. Most people would say, oh, if you run a mile, you're going to be too tired to perform your sets or perform your whatever, right? But that's not the case. I ran a mile. I ran a mile in a pretty fast pace for me. Definitely had more in the tank, and then even yet was still able to go and perform my squats and feel like I did very, very well. And so I think that that's maybe something to consider for all of you, that you're like, oh, I can't do this because it'll dip into my reserve. For most of us, our reserve of energy and our reserve of ability is pretty deep. And now we're all drawn from that one well, right? So stress is stress is stress is stress. So work stress, home stress, lack of sleep, that all draws from one well. Your body doesn't differentiate those stresses from one another. It's just stress. Same thing for the gym, right? Your body doesn't differentiate gym stress from other stress. It's all stress. So there absolutely is a point where there's a drop off, and you've gone too far. You've gone beyond your maximum recoverable volume, so on and so forth. But maximum recoverable volume is a moving target, and the more trained you are, the further out that target gets. So sometimes you will overtrain, and you'll be like, all right, that was too much. Lesson learned. There is a good reason to find that wall sometimes, so you know when to stop. But I think for most of us, the wall is further out than most of us would imagine, I guess is my point. All right, let's see. Thanks, Arnold, man. I appreciate it. I really appreciate the support, man. I'm glad you're digging what I'm putting out here. Build that flow. Check out flow training. GPP focused. Yeah, so general physical preparedness, right? So, this is definitely something that Brian Alsruhe is very into. And he goes about it with his giant sets and things like that and talks about being ready for life. One thing that I kind of a rant of mine that I want to make sure that I'm absolutely explicit with is physical fitness. The idea of being fit only works when you have a goal, right? So without a goal, there really is no such thing as physically fit, right? Because physically fit is tied to an objective, a goal, end state. So you have people who are really, really great powerlifters. They are fit for powerlifting. They are not necessarily fit for other things. So being fit doesn't mean you're good at all things. Being fit means you're good at whatever it is your goal is. So Brian Alsruhe's goal is to be generally fit, be able to do a myriad of things at any point in time. That's a goal. It's very specific. Well, I guess maybe it's kind of general, but some of us have more specific goals. So general physical preparedness is an idea, and I certainly like the idea of it. But again, is tied to a series of goals. So if you're not reaching your goals, you're not able to achieve your goals, then by that standard, you're not fit. So general physical preparedness, I think, is a good concept of just saying like you can generally do some things. But I like to be a little bit more specific when I discuss fitness and tying it to a specific outcome, because that's what we do. We find things and we kind of go after them. And most of us tend to be very, very linear in what our focus is. And so if you are linear in your focus, then you should be linear in your training and your concept of what fitness is, so that you're as good as that thing. You're as good at that thing as you can be, I guess, is kind of my point with that. The definition of fitness in nature, how well you're adapted to your role. Thanks, Aaron. Yeah, so I think, that's kind of one of the beefs that I have with the Army and Army's general talk about fitness. Fitness needs to be related to a goal, an outcome. You can only determine fitness based on your performance for that set outcome. But yeah, I think that's maybe a rant for another time. Know your role. Right. I'm going to drink a beer if you guys don't mind. Yeah, it's Bud Light. Is it necessary? No, it's not necessary. It's sterile and I like the taste. Yeah, that's kind of my rant for the video, guys. If you have, any questions, comments, any of you that are here now want to chat, kind of pop off, whatever, make yourselves known. I'll be glad to sit here with you for a few more minutes and chat with you. But that's really the majority of everything that I wanted to discuss. Now, as a kind of an end statement, I want to be very clear. I mean, absolutely no disrespect to Joe, Brian, Billy, Olu, or Nick, any of the individuals that were involved in the video that Brian did. I just saw it as an opportunity to be able to do a video that was a kind of a counterpoint, but not entirely disagreeing. I just wanted people to know you don't have to do these things. You can be very successful without doing any of them. So I just saw it as an opportunity to kind of counterbalance and wanted to throw that out there. So again, absolutely no disrespect to those guys. They're my friends and I adore them. I watch pretty much everything that they put out. But I saw it as an opportunity to kind of have a counterpoint. I thought it would be an interesting message for anyone that might have the inclination to click on this video or to watch the live stream, just to say, you don't got to. All right, so no one's coming through, so nothing heard. We're going to go ahead and wrap it down. I just want to thank any of you that jumped into the live stream for jumping into the live stream. I appreciate all of you guys. Definitely appreciate anyone that watches this video and kind of checks it out and gives it a listen. I hope that it gives you food for thought, if for nothing else. If you guys have any questions, comments, or concerns, leave in the chat box below. I'll be sure to respond. If you guys ever have any other questions, whatever, you can write me on the channel. You can email me. I love responding to questions, so be sure to hit me up with those. You guys like the video, help me out, give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subbed up on the channel, I don't know what you're waiting for. It's about as good as it's going to get. Nah, it'll probably get better. But don't wait. And check out the Train to Fight gear over at Spreadshirt. The link will be in the description box below once I post this live. Or, no, not live, but once I post this. Man, that's it, guys. Remember, no matter what it is you think you can't do, get your ass in the gym. Know your role, Randy. And you're going to find an excuse, you're going to find a way. And I hope that you guys continue to find the way. See you in the next one. Peace.